I had a thing that I was a little bit perturbed by this week, Katie. I was. So there was this. This really was a big deal on Twitter. And I have I have a bone to pick, I think, with maybe how people reacted with this. The FBI put this out on March 4th this week. Said the FBI is seeking information on people who took part in the violence at the Capitol on January 6th. If you know who this individual is, visit tips.fbi.gov. Refer to photo 247 in your tip. And so people noticed, and this, really got around, that this bears a very striking resemblance to Jay Johnston from the HBO sketch comedy show, Mr. Show. And so, this kind of got around, and people were at first posting about like, wow, people were like joking about it and stuff like that.
Like, haha, he looks
it kind of looks like this guy or whatever. And I don't want to even do any sort of actual confirming or anything like that. But it did get to the point where people who know this person were, expressing that he was in fact at the Capitol, and that he was part of the, the event that happened at the Capitol. And I think that there was this kind of rush to be part of the story, and there was this like excitement about the weirdness of it turning out to that it might actually have been this person. But what I would like to express is that this is a post from the fucking FBI, and we're not supposed to help the FBI find people. Like, that is actually still snitching to the FBI, in my opinion. And it was very worrisome to me, and it really like bothered me a lot to see people kind of like gleefully doing detective work for the feds to try to turn somebody into the feds. And now listen, like, of course people will agree or disagree, obviously, with what happened. I disagree. I personally disagree with what happened at the Capitol. I don't think it was a very smart idea to go try to fucking go into the Capitol building to change the results of the election or whatever.
Hot take.
Surprising. I know. Hot take, I know. But I was it made me distressed to see how quickly and easily people fell into kind of gleefully snitching to the FBI. And I get that this all feels like it's a chat room or something like that, and that we're all just like gossiping with friends or whatever, but it's a chat room that the FBI is also in. You know what I mean? It's like when you're quote tweeting this tweet and saying like, I've confirmed it's this guy or whatever, I'm like, that's snitching to the fucking FBI. You know what I mean? And like, I saw people, and I don't want to even name names or anything like that. But I
snitch on snitchers.
I don't want to snitch on snitches. And you know what? I think people ultimately did feel, not that good about it, because a lot of people went back and deleted posts in the following day, especially people that were like, I confirm, blah, blah, blah. Right. You know what I mean? I just want people to say, it's like, honestly, at this point, I'm like, they could put out a picture of anyone and say they were at the Capitol riots, and people would fall all over themselves to try to fucking snitch to the FBI. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I'm like, I don't know. Like, I get that it feels different because it's the fucking, the insurrection at the Capitol or whatever. But let's try to stay with the eyes on the ball here. And the fucking FBI are the enemy. You know what I mean? It's like the FBI, it's all cops are bastards. It's all. Let's remember the all part in all situations. You know what I mean? It made me feel very like scared basically about this. I also see stories like, I saw a story like this last week, and I wish I had the exact story, but I saw somebody, there was a story about, and this was a right-wing person, but it was like this right-wing person was making posts like, being threatening online about politicians, and then they raided this, they like went to this person's house and found out that they like owned a bunch of guns or whatever. And so it's like this person is like arrested now, they've been stopped, but they were making threatening posts online and they own a bunch of guns. And I'm like, to be honest with you, I know some people who own guns and say things that would be considered to be threatening about like politicians online. You know what I mean? Like, I know that we're right now talking about Trump people and everything like that, but I actually do worry, when the incoming head of Homeland Security says that they are like investigating over 2,000 domestic terrorism cases. I'm like, I don't think all 2,000 are MAGA people. You know what I mean? Like, that's all. Yeah. I'm like, I just don't think all 2,000 were MAGA people. And I just this week, and I know that people get caught up in the moment and they get caught up in the FOMO of it all. But I'm like, some conversations can be had privately. You know what I mean? And when I see people who like know this guy doing posts like lamenting that he like got into alcohol and drugs or whatever, right. I'm like, so you want him to go up on fucking domestic terrorism charges for being addicted to drugs? Right. This guy? I'm like, I don't know. Like, let's keep our eyes on the ball here. And it's never, ever snitch to the feds for any reason, no matter what, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's interesting. So, okay, one question. This is kind of a moot point, and you probably... Do we know if it's him? I mean, how do I ask?
I don't want to say that. I don't want to say. It's like I don't want to talk about.
So there's
this,
Well, what did Mr. Show is with? What is
with
David?
Bob and David? Yeah, Bob.
So has either of them said anything? I'm just curious about that.
They had not said anything publicly, but there were people who knew them who did say things publicly, and people who knew Jay personally. Who said
Amber
things
Tamblyn.
Publicly.
Did she say anything?
Amber Tamblyn, I don't think said anything. And listen,
David,
I guess
what's his name? David. Oh my God, what's his name? Bob Odenkirk and David
Cross.
Yeah, that's his wife.
That's his wife. Yeah,
and he's
I guess I can say that people heard that Jay Johnston was at the Capitol. I don't think it's like confirming.
What else was he in, by the way? Because
he was in the Sarah Silverman show.
Yes.
He's a funny guy. Like, he's funny.
Yeah,
like,
he played her boyfriend, Sarah Silverman's sister's boyfriend, right?
Yeah.
Cop.
No, he was the cop. Yeah, he was the other. There was like the two cops.
Well, they were a gay couple.
They were a gay couple.
Oh, right.
Yes. He's a very funny guy, and I think he did fall into some fucked up shit. And like, he went on the Gavin McInnes podcast and all this kind of stuff. Gavin McInnes is like comes from the world of this like kind of alt comedy. You know what I mean? It's like Gavin McInnes is friends with a lot of these people and all that. And so listen,
but he's bad, right? Like Gavin McInnes.
Gavin just fucked up. Bad. Gavin started the Proud Boys. Gavin
right. So that's unambiguous.
He's like
right.
an unambiguous racist. And you know what? Jay might also be bad. And I think that he did go to the Capitol to see Trump speak or whatever. I would not snitch and say that I would never say that I recognize anyone in any photo that the feds post out, but like, I think I can say, because it's not breaking the law, that like, yes, he did go to the Capitol, and yes, I think he did it because he's fucked up in the head and like believes bad things or whatever. But I still don't think we should ever rush to snitch to anyone for the FBI. And I'm someone who even believes, obviously, and we've gone back and forth, that the thing at the Capitol has been a little overblown, and that I think it's being made into something bigger than it is. But I just think the larger thing,
it's being Russiagated too, which is that you just point to that to not have to deal with anything.
Yes, important. I agree. And it's like, people are very weird about it. Like, if you talk about how Brian Sicknick, how there's I'm not even like someone who's like a truther. I'm like, maybe Brian Sicknick was killed by these protesters, but I think it's not crazy to point out that there's a lot of like shadiness. Right. And that's
one of the cops, right? Who they
one said of the cops who they said is dead or whatever. Who they said who died.
Yeah,
and they
say
is
dead. We believe he's dead.
I believe he's dead. I do believe he's dead and cremated or whatever. But I'm like, I don't think it's. Like, I don't think it's crazy to point out that there's a lot of weirdness surrounding that particular death, and that there was
the causes of death, right?
There was something announced about the cause of death that has now been taken back, and that they've like never really announced a cause of death, and also there hasn't ever been like a press conference about it the way you would typically have about something like this, where there are like questions asked and stuff like that. Like, this is not me being like, no one was killed at the Capitol and those people are like nonviolent. It's not crazy to say like, no, but there is weirdness surrounding the events of that day. You know what I mean?
Yes.
But in any event, all I'm saying is that like, if the FBI posts something out, don't get and if the cops or anybody posts something out, like, don't just get caught up in the like cycle of likes and retweets and all this kind of stuff, because like and I'm trying to be nice to people. Like, I don't think people really thought about that this was like kind of snitching to the cops. Yeah. They're just like, here I am palling around on Twitter with all my friends, and we're like just talking to each other or whatever, and like people, like even people who knew him were like, I can confirm or whatever, and I'm like, you're saying this in public in front of everybody. You know what I mean? You're saying this in front of the FBI. Like, and
right.
Also I saw a lot of people being like, wow, how dumb is the FBI that they couldn't figure out like someone who's been on television for 20 years or whatever. And to my mind, I'm like, but they did figure it out by posting it so that all of you would tell them. You know what I mean? I'm like, they figured it out by all of you doing their work for them and telling them,
Yeah. I mean, yes, I do think it's a little bit complicated. I mean, okay, one thing is that I don't think people are doing it because they're palling around it. They're getting carried away in the moment, sure, but they really think that they're like on the side of they think that they are protecting. I don't agree with them because I think that there's a really overly simplistic narrative, but they think that like there are marginalized people who are at risk, and they are like, this is in solidarity with them,
right?
And I get where that comes from, and I actually am not quite as sure as you are about like what I think. There are instances where like it is obvious that the FBI and the intelligence community and the military, like they're it's not like bugs, it's like features that makes them bad, right? Mm-hmm. But I don't know, like there are times when they are going to be on the right side, like a broken clock. And I don't know what that means.
Well, it's like, listen.
Like there are times when they're going after what, like I think we have to not try. This seems to me like, is this a civil liberties issue? Is it just for you like collaborating with them? Because there's nothing illegal, right, about identifying someone.
It is tough, it is tough.
Because what if it was a case? What if it was like people at the Charlottesville?
It's tough. It is a tough thing. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't know, because it's like, if you really get into it, it's like, I am not even convinced that like the FBI doesn't have a hand in like the planning of this and didn't know that this was happening and everything like that, because the leader of the Proud Boys was an FBI informant, you know? And so it's like, these things do get very complicated. If it comes to like identifying people, I think it has to be situational if you're going to make it into this kind of thing, and it should be that you like know exactly what someone did. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it's way too easy to just post out like, this is somebody that we're seeking and they're a bad person or whatever. Yeah. It's like, we're also in a situation, Katie, where it's like, people were in the streets last year protesting over George Floyd, and they broke laws while they were doing that. You know what I mean? And so it's like, I am kind of the mindset that like the FBI in general is not anti-racist. You know what I mean?
I would agree.
And I don't think that they're ultimately on the side of anti-racists. And I don't know. I think if you are going to be informing to the FBI about something, you better be damn sure that like the person you are informing about deserves to like go to prison forever or be killed. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, why does he even deserve either? Oh, sorry.
That's what I'm saying. It's like, we actually don't know. It's like,
right. What did he do? Because attending that isn't a crime.
Well, they just posted out his picture, and I'm like, maybe he's somebody that like went inside the building or something like that. But like, you better be damn sure if you're going to like identify someone for the FBI that like they deserve to be identified by the FBI. Right. Like, I guess if I saw someone, like if you're like trying to identify the person who ran down Heather Heyer, you know, at Charlottesville, and we see like a picture of the person who's driving the car, like, yes, I think that that's probably moral to be like, I know the name of that person. You know what I mean? But if you just see a picture of someone surrounded by people in like MAGA hats, I don't know that like rises to the level of like, we should be reporting, on this person for what could rise to the level of being domestic terrorism. Yeah, I'd like to respond briefly to the chat.
Make them pay. Make them pay if they're haters.
There that are
anyone pay? Give them a couple minutes to pay.
This person, Guy Shaw, says all over the place here, Jack. You know what I mean? How about this? It's not against the rules to like figure out what you believe in front of people.
Yeah.
And in fact, actually, I think that people who are like hardliners about their beliefs, for the most part, like, you know, are stealing from themselves the ability to like change their mind based on context. I don't think that it's 100%. I think it's okay to be thoughtful about what you believe. And try to think about questions that people ask you and answer them honestly. You know what I mean? That's all. I don't like, and yes, I was like, let me think about that because I needed to think about it for a second. I don't apologize for that.
Yeah, thank you.
And I don't apologize for laughing either or saying, fuck you all.
Yeah, seriously, guys. Thank you, Lee Levin or Levin. Yeah, the you know what I mean? Guys, why are you doing that? They're just mean-spirited. You know what I mean-spirited? Hey, you see what I did there? But seriously, I mean, why don't you engage in the content? Yeah, Nelson Galvin
it's all
says
gravy. I was just giving people a hard time. I actually am not upset. Nothing ever upsets me because I'm the most relaxed person ever now that I take baths every day and just read books all the time. I'm off Twitter. I love it. It's the best. Now that I'm not on Twitter, I'm just reading books all the time.
But you are on Twitter. You're just on Twitter as what is it?
I am on Twitter. No, I'm not. I'm not logged into that account. My wife is if I have to ever go anything on that, my wife posts it to me.
Human buffer.
I'm not on it, and I try not to look at any of it outside of the window of that I do a morning show every day. Like I read the news every day. But I'm against what I'm against now. Is relative timestamps and a false sense of immediacy. I don't think there's any need to know things the moment they happen, and I think a lot of these social media websites like try to engender in us a feeling that we need to know things immediately, and I don't. I don't think we do, and I'm anti-relative timestamps. If something is trying to tell me
relative timestamps,
it's that. We used to have things on websites where it said Wednesday at 6 p.m. Now on Twitter and all the websites, it says 1H ago, 2H ago.
Oh, yeah, I don't like that. I don't like that at all.
I'm anti-relative timestamps. That's just trying to engender a sense of immediacy and FOMO in you.
Totally,
I don't like relative timestamps. I don't care that it happened 1 hour ago, and I don't even need to know.